Welcome, Edinburgh TV Festival. I am Candice Brathwaite, and today we are talking all things YouTube originals, and what a panel I have for you. But first, let me introduce Luke Hyams, Head of YouTube Originals, EMEA. Gotta get that in. We've got Munya Chawawa, comedian, content creator extraordinaire. Patricia Bright, entrepreneur and content creator extraordinaire. And Jack Harries here with the biggest space of all. Hi, Jack. It's so nice to see you. Luke, I want to kick things off with you. Could you tell me what YouTube Originals has been up to?
Well, you know, over the last year, we've been working with some incredible talent, both in front of and behind the camera. We've made some shows that we're massively proud of. And I think the pandemic has made us make some decisions editorially that allow us to focus on the UK a little more than we might have done before. Whereas before we might have done UK shows that would encompass more of stuff and people from around the world, not being able to travel has made us focus on UK voices, which I think has been really strong. In fact, we actually have a little reel we prepared for today. Is it okay to...
Yeah, let's run it.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
YouTube don't play games.
Nasty, it's almost time. We gotta calm down. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1!
Let's go.
This whole journey of this film has helped me discover who I am. 2020.
Welcome to YouTube Pride 2021.
A show to celebrate Pride.
Happy Pride, everyone!
I'm a big fan of making real music with real people.
He's a real superstar.
That's my thing, man. Spread love. The world needs it.
The world is full of amazing women. I want to meet them and hear their best piece of advice.
Oh my God!
Oh, shit!
I'm doing this show. It's basically like hardball karaoke, but with footballers.
Those are my mother's type. They smell like it.
I want you to scare her now.
You are so annoying. Good luck for your program, man.
I don't know what to do.
Teenage Cancer Trust have asked me to run the London Marathon, and there's no other answer than yes.
Let's finish off strong, come on! I've done it! Yeah!
No one had expectations of kids in the estate, and this is how we were made to feel.
Wherever this country that my mother brought me to, I was not equal.
There's a trend of remaining silent.
I knew that was racism.
People have come from a place where they didn't think they could make a living out of this, but now we're here.
There's all these like white kids that want to hear us.
This is the man with one of the biggest jobs in world football. I want to find out how he went from such a massive low to an incredible high and tackle 3 key questions.
I just want to explore the deaf world that I could have been part of.
You only get one chance in life. You're the main character and the world is your stage.
I've always wanted to protect your identity.
You've inspired me.
Drill doesn't cause violence, drill is a reflection of violence.
Someone you love took me 6 months to write, so I think you just need to let it happen.
I've been given boxes. We're all going to try and complete what is in there. Look at it!
Salute.
Salute indeed. That is really,
I thought we were going to clap. Sorry.
Doing
a solo clap.
I'm not going to lie.
That was brilliant.
Yeah. That is really, really powerful stuff. I am really excited about WizKid, massive WizKid fan. Couldn't get tickets. He needs to add more dates if he's listening. And I'm a massive drill fan. Mum of 2, literally pumping that in the car, so I can't wait for those. But Luke, let's speak about the 3 shows the creators are leading. Could you tell me more about them, please?
Well, I mean, nobody's better placed to talk about these shows than these guys, but as a sort of preamble, I'll say that, you know, for us, we find that when we're doing shows with people who are incredibly passionate about important subjects for an audience that they have, that they've created, that's already established, that's when YouTube Originals comes into its own. We're partnering with Patricia. We're doing a new show called If I Could Tell You Just One Thing. And for us, it was just, Patricia had been on the platform for 10 years. She'd been the greatest example of somebody, I'm talking about you like you're not here, but listen, you know, you are the greatest example of somebody who has evolved from, you know, starting off doing beauty and fashion. Now you have your whole break platform, which of course you know, anybody who needs financial advice that is very straight talking, go forward, please make more videos.
But it's fine. Like, I'll just give you some advice.
You give them advice. So, you know, we had this. You know, she's been somebody who, you may make a joke of it, that young people go to for advice on multiple subjects all through, you know, her time on YouTube. So the idea of going to the next level with a show that sees her talk to 12 of the most inspirational women in this country to understand what their greatest piece of advice for, we couldn't really turn a blind eye to that. Munya Chawawa, now, will it one day just be Munya like Madonna? Will you drop the Chihuahua? Or?
Hell no.
No.
It's never good advice to drop a Chihuahua.
No,
and also, if I marry my current girlfriend, we double barrel our surnames, my name would be Munya Chawawa Power.
Yeah.
We love that.
Oh
Would he be able to fit that in a YouTube username?
Oh my God. So this guy, while Joe Wicks during the pandemic kept us fit, Munya kept us sane. Like, you know, he was coming through with comedy that was just making us feel like, you know, there was going to be a future. And it was a crazy thing. Like, I just started putting smoke signals into the world. Every meeting I'd have, they'd go, "What do you want?" I'd like, "We'd love to do a show with Munya." And, you know, eventually we manifested it. We put that out in the world. Eventually somebody gave me his email address, his agent wrote to us, and, you know, we sat down, we had a conversation. Munya talked about his personal story, you know, which was such an interesting, which he will, of course, tell himself, but a really interesting take, and he wanted to examine race in this country. And, you know, we just felt, wow, this is somebody who is, you know, tapped into the cultural zeitgeist of where we are in the UK, has an interesting approach of how to do it. This is what we're here for. We'll be fine. And finally, we're meant to look over here. Jack Harries speaking to us live from the road, making his show. It was a weird one because Jack is, again, like Patricia, a founding father or founding mother of YouTube here in the UK.
Old, but yeah.
No, it makes you...
You discovered YouTube.
Accomplished.
Accomplished, I'll take that.
You know, accomplished, and like you've put the time and the work in. And same with Jack, but Jack had been away for a minute. So when he got back in touch, we were like, you know, because we normally really want to work with people who are like these guys who are just, you know, making videos every single day. And we're like, "Jack, where you been?" And he had a great answer for us. He was like, "I have been away studying the climate crisis. I've been away, you know, preparing what the next great move would be. And I would like to use my channel, my audience, to really try and give a voice to underrepresented people in the climate debate on the eve of COP26. We've got to do this now. I've got Silverback as a partner." And we were just like, okay, great, sounds great. So again, 3 examples of just passion, you know, things that they care about, and that's what we care about.
Cool. Jack, Munya, Patricia, I want to kick it to you guys for a minute. I've got 3 questions, so if someone can't remember, just be like, "What did you say again?" And you can just dive in when you want. How has digital shaped the content you've made? What was it like having autonomy over everything you did when you started out? And what was the learning curve for you? Who wants to go first?
I'll jump in. Well, you know, for me personally, I'd say that digital really, well, yeah, I guess it saved my life, or it saved my goals from, well, it helped my goals become reality, because I was at a point where I really wanted to be on TV, I wanted to do radio and stuff, but of course, in those industries, sometimes there are gatekeepers, or at least at the time, where it was like you had to impress one person, and if you didn't, sorry, that's your shot over. So, you know, I would write to people, I would write to agents, I would write to TV channels and commissioners saying I was Idris Elba's son. Like, I promise that is something I did. I would write to them, the title of the email would be Idris Elba Mark II, and then it would be like, "Hey, I'm Idris Elba's son, you know, I hope you've enjoyed my dad's work, I loved Luther Series 6. Anyway, and then at the end, in really tiny writing, which I'd then like put in italics and white font, it'd be like, "I'm not his son." So, but that was like, I felt like that was my only chance to get in. And so my whole life turned around, obviously, when I began creating online.
Yes.
And then suddenly you realise the only gatekeepers are your audience. If you make something good, something funny, something that makes them feel something and they respond well, then that's your license to do more. And then obviously as you do that, it snowballs, people join the journey. And there are no gatekeepers. Your only gatekeeper is you and how much you're willing to put in and how much you're willing to try and experiment.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, that saved my life because I would have been I would have just put a cap on all of my dreams and gone, well, it's not going to happen. Discovered online, you know. Now I'm loving it more than ever. You know what I mean?
Patricia.
That's amazing. I mean, for me, digital has shaped me in that I had no plans. Like, I've been in the game for a long time and accidentally stumbled on this world. It wasn't something I had thought about. I was on my own career trajectory, but digital and making content on these platforms completely changed my path in a way that I would have never thought. Whereas you wanted to actually be in the public eye and, you know, be in this industry. I didn't know that this industry
There really wasn't an industry before you.
There wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
And so I was able to be guided by what I naturally felt inclined to do, which was just to talk to random people, strangers online. And it was fun for me. And so it made me feel like I can connect in a way that I've never been able to connect with people in the everyday world in this way on these platforms, and then inevitably leave my job and leave my planned trajectory for something completely different.
Jack, let's kick it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I totally relate to both your answers there. I had no plan whatsoever. I was 18, I'd just finished school. Like, I knew I wanted to make films. I was interested maybe in performing, but I had no idea how to do that or what my plan was. And like, you guys are right in saying back then there was no industry. I started my YouTube channel 10 years ago, and it's strange to think now, but there was no such thing as a YouTuber then. Like, no one made money making YouTube videos. And I think that had an amazing effect on the stuff that people created, because it was just a totally creative space, you know. And I think that was what I fell in love with YouTube. Like, I was revising for my A-levels, and as a form of procrastination, I was just watching loads of YouTube videos. And to me, it just seemed so exciting that people were making stuff in their bedroom, broadcasting it to the world, collaborating with one another as well. And I think that's what's so unique about YouTube, is that sense of like camaraderie. It doesn't feel maybe competitive, or at least back then anyway, as, you know, like other industries. And it just felt real and it felt authentic. And so, yeah, I made the channel. I called it Jack's Gap because I was taking a gap year, which tells you I had literally no, you know, plan of longevity. It was just like a mad project for my year off. And it became a thing. And, you know, I went to university after that year, as did my brother. And a couple of weeks in, we both called each other up and were like, you know, let's like, it was kind of more fun making the videos. Do you want to just quit and do the video thing full time? And so much to my parents' dismay, we both quit university on the same day, drove back to London. We're like, Mum, Dad, we're making YouTube videos for a living. And they were like, why? What have we done to deserve this?
Bro, if you had African parents, that would have been a whole different story. You wouldn't be on the stream right now.
My mum would be in every morning, like, right, 7 a.m. You said you'll quit for work, get out there and do it.
Wow.
And, you know, we registered a little production company. And I look back at those early couple of years as just like the happiest time of my life. It was just ultimate freedom. And every day would just be like, are we really allowed to do this? We're just making videos, and like that's doing that on YouTube for a living. Like, that's bonkers. But it felt so exciting. I relate to that thing of the gatekeeper. It just felt like, no, you know, you just kind of came into the industry and no one knew. It was like the Wild West. It still is a little bit. And we were just making it up every day. And there's so much fun that comes with that.
So all three of you now have not just massive audiences, but really, really engaged audiences. And for people watching that, I always want them to know that that is the key. It's not necessarily just about the numbers, but who are you talking to? Are they responding? Are you learning from them? So what I want to know now, what does building on these foundations look like to all of you? And how do you want to see your content mature and grow in scale? If you do. Because sometimes that question's not put there either. It's like more. Do you want to see it grow? Patricia, we'll start with you this time.
As in, do I want to see it grow? I mean, I think, you know, when I've been creating for 10 years, so inevitably I change and my audience have changed with me. And what I love about these platforms is that you can be like multifaceted. I started off doing hair tutorials, and then I went into beauty, and then I went into fashion, and now I'm in finance, and I'm doing it all. And my audience have been able to come along on every aspect of that journey with me, even though my topics of interest have changed. And I think as long as like your DNA remains the same, like even if I'm talking about my weave, or I'm talking about my outfit, or I'm talking about my bank balance, who I am has stayed, and I find that people will love you as a person, and they will follow you based on that, and that's like your initial DNA. And I think when it goes to like scaling and changing what you do, and even me doing a show, it's very, very different. But I know that my audience will probably stay because, again, that DNA remains there and they can see, okay, this is what Patricia is. And it's really important to stay really authentic to yourself whenever you're on a platform. And after a while, you do want to change things up. You get bored. You get bored of doing the same thing. And you have to recognise that you may lose some people in that process. But I think it's worse to get stuck being the same person, always being a caricature of yourself. And you have to grow and evolve. And that's something that I am really excited about doing.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think lots of the things Patricia said I can relate to. So, for example, the idea of if you do the same thing, you can even actually fall out of love with it. At the beginning of this year, I obviously began a new year, and I'm sure all of us put a lot of pressure on ourselves to try and, for every year to be the best year of your life. And I just remember having a conversation with one of my friends, and she said to me, look, it's okay to feel like this, because do you want to make 60-second videos for your whole life? And I said, well, not really, actually. So obviously we began speaking with Luke, and now it feels like exactly what I need to be doing, which is this evolution of content. So, you know, the show we're working on together is called Race Around Britain. Now, you know, we've had, over the last couple of years, there's been huge conversation about race, but being British, we're not as kind of, we're not as free or kind of liberal when we're speaking about things.
Stiff upper lippish.
Exactly, very stiff upper lippish. And it's like throwing a cactus to people every time you want to talk about race. Everyone doesn't know how to handle it. Everyone is afraid of, you know, being prickled by it. So I was like, okay, cool. What I know I'm decent at is actually talking about serious things, but through comedy.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about something, we're going to learn something, but we'll do it whilst we're laughing. So my goal was to create a show where we can talk about race, which seems to be the thing everyone is afraid of talking about, but we'll discuss it through humour. You know, no one's getting the finger pointed, we're not pointing any fingers, we're just going, cool. You've heard all of these terms, maybe you know what they mean, maybe you don't. We're going to tell a few jokes, we're going to do a few social experiments, maybe a couple of pranks. Everyone's going to be in on it, no one's the butt of the joke, but we're all going to learn something. And for me, that's just having the space to do all of that, but not being limited to 60 seconds. It's like freedom. You know, it's like spreading my wings, even though chihuahuas don't have wings, but you know what I mean.
And also for you, these are not on the questions, but I fly by with the seat of my pants. For you, you are astoundingly quick. It's like you live on the news feed. So making this show, are you seeing that as like a bit of a break because it's longer form content? You don't have to be so snappy.
Yeah, and also because sometimes, you know, it's not every day that there is a scandal. So if there's no scandal, it's kind of like, if my formula was only make content when something happens and react quickly, when nothing happens, it's like, well, then my superpower's dormant.
Yes.
So that's why it's nice to work on like an evergreen show where you can talk about something for the ages. Ultimately, I don't know if it's the same for all creators, but I feel like we kind of all want to leave some sort of legacy or something that you can solidify in time. And not having it attached to one moment just means there's a better chance of that happening.
Completely. Jack, I'm going to come to you, but I'll repeat the question because I know I've been around the houses. What does building on your foundation look like to you, and how do you want to see your content mature and grow in scale, if you do?
Yeah, I think I've been on a real journey with my content. Like, I started making just silly videos from my bedroom, travel stuff, the normal YouTube spiel, and somewhere along that journey, I went on this trip to Greenland and learned about the issue of climate change. And that for me was this huge like wake up moment of like, wow, this is a massive issue. And like, I feel like I need to know more about it and learn how to communicate it. And as Luke said, I took a bunch of time to really out from YouTube to do that, to like learn as much as I could about the issue. And I think climate is such an interesting issue. And I really relate to what you're saying there, Munya, about using comedy to try and talk about serious issues. There's not much comedy at all in the climate space. It's a very overwhelming topic. It's very easy to feel like you don't know enough, to feel like you're a hypocrite, to feel completely overwhelmed by it. And I was in that space for a lot of time. Like, I ended up gluing myself to a building. I didn't know what to do with myself. And then I sort of came back and was like, well, how can I lend myself to this movement? How can I contribute to this movement? And obviously we're all here because we're communicators in some form. We're interested in using digital platforms to do that. And so this YouTube show, I think, for me, is an opportunity to take some of the stuff that I was doing at the start, being on camera, trying to be authentic, being personal and meeting people, and using that to communicate the topic of climate change. And it's a challenge, you know, like, I don't think we've figured it out solely. I think we're on that journey of like, how do you communicate this issue in a way that feels more accessible and more relatable to people? Like, And I think, you know, when I first started talking about this stuff, I think most of my audience were like, oh, bloody hell, Jack's ranting on about the environment again. And, you know, my audience were maybe a few years younger than me. And now I find, you know, as I've grown up, obviously they've grown up, and like a lot of my audience are in university, and they come up to me in the street and they're like, oh, I'm doing climate science now, or, you know, like I've woken up to this issue. And that's a really nice thing to have. So I've loved sort of like growing with my audience and yeah, watching them become interested in a whole array of issues. And yeah, I'm excited for this show and just for a chance to kind of communicate this issue, hopefully in a different way than it has before.
Amazing.
Hey Jack, what would you do? Like, what would you do if people start saying, "This guy's the new David Attenborough"? Like, you're gonna have to go around the world and like battle pythons and stuff. Are you ready for that?
I don't have his voice. I wish I did. You know,
No, but bro, you're just gonna wake up one day and you might just like have it. Do you know what I mean?
In the world.
You could be the next guy. That's crazy. That's it.
Luke,
that is my goal.
Luke, I want to come back to you. What's important about working with digital creatives, and what's the secret to capturing their originality while giving them the support and resources to grow in ambition?
Well, I think that, you know, first of all, every single digital creator is different, and the way they approach the work is different. But I think when you enter into it and you're doing a partnership where you can help them take what they're doing to the next level, if you have that as the basis, that's a really great start. If it feels like they're doing you a favor, it sometimes can not go well. And I think, you know, the biggest thing is like sensitivity. You know, that's the thing you've got to know, like, to what they've built. You know, everybody here has spent such an incredible amount of time poring over their channels, over their content, making sure it's algorithmically correct, making sure it speaks to what this audience is saying. And join me for an analogy, if you will, but imagine YouTube is like some farmland, and each of these guys has built like a beehive on there. And what we want to do with YouTube Originals is we want to come in and we want to help build like a loft extension that these bees would love. Yeah. But we want to make sure that it feels inside the loft room like what the bees are accustomed to, so they don't buzz and buzz off. Yeah, and not too much smoke with the building and stuff. You know, you've got to make sure it's in tune with what the audience are expecting, because if it's not, if it just feels like some next random mad show, often they can be, you know, sort of like distant from it, and it doesn't work for everybody. So it's really that collaboration, and I find, you know, particularly with these three and most of the creators that we work with, most of them, I learn so much. I learn so much because they have made shows and made content, for lack of a better word, in a sort of roll up your sleeves way that you just have to respect, you know, because the evidence is right there on the platform of what they've created.
So you three, I want to kick it back to all of you. Why was making your shows important to you all? Who wants to go first?
I mean, for me, it was, we've been in talks for a while to like find something that would really work for me. And then this opportunity came along, and I love the idea of actually it not being just my voice. I spent a long time talking at people. And it was quite scary though, to be like, I'm gonna let others on my platform. I don't know who they are, but I felt that the idea of bringing these really powerful, inspirational women from diverse backgrounds who have diverse experiences that I could personally learn from, as well as my audience could learn from, was something that was really important to me. And I've been in this personal space of trying to challenge myself. Like, what can I do next? What can I do that's different and has this aspect of legacy as well? And so doing this show really pushed me literally from meeting the guests that I met. I feel like I had this like transformation in my whole life, like my whole identity based on having these encounters. And I'd already watched a pilot previously, and I was like, I would love to do that. That's just me. So it was important as a personal challenge, but knowing that the audience also wants something different from me, and having the ability to do it with YouTube was like really powerful, because they had the funds to make it happen.
They got the coin, basically.
And believe me, when she says we've been trying to do something for ages, there is a graveyard of terrible business concepts that we and other people created to try and do a show with Patricia that just could never hit right, never really made it. But this just felt like something different, because she was always already doing amazing financial advice on the Break platform.
And I think it's also about like speaking, for me personally, it's about speaking to women. Our voices are so powerful.
Yes.
And like we have platform to make change. And how could I bring other voices that could, you know, be part of those different conversations and bring that diversity as well. So yeah, it wasn't about just me. It's like all the other people is what I loved about the show.
Jack, I'm going to kick that question to you. Why is this show important to you?
Yeah, I want to further that point as well. I think for me, I always felt a huge sense of responsibility having a platform, and I've always wanted to find a way to use it to shine a light on stories that are important, but also people who are on the front lines of that story. And I think, you know, when it comes to climate change, we don't hear enough from the people who are experiencing it firsthand, but also people who work on the front lines of trying to tackle it, activists, inventors, campaigners. And this show was an opportunity to do just that, to take my platform and to use it as a space to shine a light on these stories. We know that at the end of this year is COP26, which is the next major climate conference, where 190 world leaders will gather together, literally to sort of decide the future of life on Earth. And what I've always loved about YouTube is it's a meritocracy, as we were talking about at the start. It gives a voice to anyone, potentially, right? And so I hope this show can be an opportunity to give a platform to voices we don't often hear about when it comes to this conversation, those on the front lines of this issue, those who are often the most marginalised in the climate conversation.
Amen to that. Munya?
Well, you know, a couple of years ago when I was just sort of a lost little bee looking for my loft, I thought to myself, do you know what? I can see what's happening in my world. You know, people are stumbling across me on social media, and they are kind of, you know, they're kind of coining me with this phrase of like, you know, social media creator, you know, social media you know, comedian, whatever. I was thinking to myself, do you know what? I've worked 7 years in TV. You know, 7 years in TV, 4 years in radio. You know, I know how to make a program. I know how to make a show.
Yes.
You know, I was making live TV for 2 years, waking up at 6, going to the office 8. We were going live at 4 p.m. every day across national, you know, across national television. So I was like, I want something for me to showcase that, because a lot of the time when people use the phrase, you know, social media, this and that, the insinuation within that is you can do stuff on the internet. You know, you're a youngster who can do stuff on the internet, and it's kind of like, actually, in all of our cases, you know, all of us creators, Patricia, Jack, what we're doing is we're actually creating shows that whole teams of people work on, but without a team a lot of the time. And then as you grow, you kind of you get your team and stuff. So this show that we're doing, Race Around Britain, where I even get to exec it, you know, it's all of the things I've ever learned. You know, casting, scripting, running orders, all of these skills that when you watch the show, people will have to look at it and think, wait a minute, are you sure this guy's only on social media? And that's when I can say no. Social media is what you know,
it's the
platforms
vehicle.
like YouTube is the thing that you all saw me on. There was a lot of work that happened beforehand. Now this is the thing that, like, it gets all the Avengers together, do you know what I mean? All of the different Avengers I've picked up across my life, they're all coming together for this show. So that's the thing. It's about just something that summarises everything up until this point in my life, beyond just the top line that people usually see.
Okay. We're running out of time. This conversation has flown by, so I'm going to skip a couple of questions because we got to do what we got to do. Luke, I want to come to you. Beyond the brilliant talent, the reach they have on their channels, what stories are you looking for at the heart of YouTube originals, and why?
I think, you know, building on what we've done here, you know, when people come to us with with things they're really passionate about, with audiences that they want to do something great for, that's always a great way to start the conversation. For 2022, we want to go big. We want to do, you know, I feel like we've been on our upwards incline. I feel like the shows that are coming through now are the best we've ever done. They're going to get better and better. And we really want to do big things. We want to do stuff that feels fun. We want to do stuff that, you know, connects with the audience in an ambitious and experimental way. But that feels inherently YouTube, like it could only exist on YouTube. We've got our Black Voices Fund, which is an amazing blessing to have, where we're able to invest in shows like the forthcoming Outsiders, which, Candice, thank you so much for being a part of that, and Munya, thank you for reaching. You know, which is a great opportunity for us to, you know, give young black voices an opportunity to tell their story, so other people can, young people can look at that and go, wow, I can actually see my way through to a great career as well. So the Black Voices Fund is there. We want to invest in shows that move away from like just a street culture narrative, or you know, we want to do stuff that feels like it is intelligent and aspirational. So that, and we want to employ people behind the camera as well as in front of the camera, because that's really important for us in 2022. We have to make sure we get that right, because you know, it's now or never really is the truth on that one. And then, you know, we still have a commitment to trying to do stuff that has an element of what my American chums would say, impact to it. You know, like the specialist factual stuff about the stuff that we care about the issues we care about. So racial injustice is really important. We definitely want to hear pitches on that subject. Climate, obviously, you know, this is something that's just never going away. So we have to really, you know, make sure that we are, you know, finding new creative ways to keep that conversation going in 2022. And then, last but by no means least, you know, there is a mental health crisis up and down this nation. We have to do stuff that makes people feel better about themselves, feel better about opening up and finding help, understand that the things that they're going through are things that everybody is going through. So shows that can do that in an entertaining way, in an engaging way that people want to share, you know, that's something we're really excited about.
Guys, we are literally down to the wire, but because I'm so nosy, who do you guys follow now that other people should be following? I think we got about 3 minutes. Someone in my ear will tell me.
Gosh. I'm a nerd, man. I just watch gaming all the time.
Same.
Well, I love Casey Neistat. He's an incredible creator. I know he's
videos.
not really unknown, but like I only stumbled upon him pretty recently. And Corridor Crew, who basically reimagine famous films and then CGI them in different scenarios. So they did like an R-rated Harry Potter. So if that's your bag, you know where to go.
Patricia, what about you?
Oh my God, I'm trying to remember the channel name, but this guy, he does like music analysis of films.
Oh, wow.
Like in the most detailed way that it makes me listen to the score of every film in a way I've never listened to before. You guys don't
know who it is.
I can't remember what his name is, but it's really good.
Okay. That's Jack, you really quickly.
I'd shout out Johnny Harris. He's a journalist, worked for Vox for a long time. I don't know if you guys know Vox Media. They do that show Explained on Netflix, which is amazing. And he's a journalist from Vox, has his own channel, and just it's like takes huge, meaty political topics and condenses them down and explains them in 5 minutes. It's amazing. Super talented.
Amazing. Guys, that's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Edinburgh
much.
TV Festival, thank you for watching us. Hopefully see you soon.